yes, that's right. I'm your man right here, Shadesradio.com, Curtain ICE, HipHopLives.net. This is how we get down. All right, original hip hop style music talk and culture is what I'm bringing to you right now. And we were in the midst of about to get started talking about this battle. June 9th, 2012, King of the Day, Canibus versus Dizaster. And yes, like I said, it was a disaster. Dizaster completely won only because Canibus was there at his weakest point probably in his life. It was probably the worst day in Canibus's life. Even I think it was even probably worse than the LL situation because even then some people were on his side. But right now, there's going to be very, very few people on Canibus's side, and I must admit to you, I'm actually one of them people. I'm still on Canibus's side, and I'm going to explain to you why. But be, before I go into any of that, let me just reiterate: Dizaster won, uh, because Canibus did something that no other MC in recent memory or in most people's memory at all have ever done. During a battle, Canibus, a person that's known for writing and constructing some of the illest uh, battle rhymes, Canibus himself couldn't remember his rhymes to the point where he had to pull out his rhyme pad. Now he said he had a book of like rhymes that he was practicing and writing in for 3 weeks and stuff. Even though, from what I understand, I thought they knew about this battle for like at least 6 months. So I mean, 3 weeks is not necessarily that much time to prepare for something of this magnitude when we see the reaction that it could garner. Okay, but at the same time, Canibus is supposed to be a thorough MC, right? So he's supposed to be a master of his craft. Okay, I mean, all these MCs out here talking up shit about that. But what happened to him is somewhere, but for the grace of God, will go all of you MCs. All right, every one of you MCs I know has look. Even Eminem put it in the 8 Mile movie. That's the beginning of the 8 Mile movie where he's an all right rapper, he's a thorough rapper, and he gets up on stage, he's in a battle, and he forgets his shit. It's not something that's actually that uncommon in an MC's life. You just don't normally see it on pay-per-view like it was on June 9th. Okay, or you don't usually see it unless it's in a movie, right? Like Eminem's 8 Mile. But that's something that could easily happen because of the circumstances. You might be sick, you might be under the weather, a lot of shit's going on, your girl just left you, you just had a baby, I don't know. There might be a lot of shit that's going on in your mind that would make you just not be able to concentrate. So you're still supposed to be a master of your craft. And I was speaking about this to one of my boys from back in the day, my man Shell B. Um, you know, we talked about, well, hey, he was saying that, yo, I don't care. Canibus is supposed to be a professional. If you mess up, I'm not supposed to congratulate you just because you did what you're supposed to do. But if you mess up, then I'm going to acknowledge that shit. You're going to get called out for messing up. You didn't do your job right. And I was like, you know what? You're right about that. However, what about what about the what about Michael Jordan? I don't know if he's ever had a bad night. I didn't follow Michael Jordan that much, but I'm sure he must have had one bad night where he was just fucking up shooting bricks all night. All right. Let's and then what we actually talked about, and we can keep it on the sports metaphors, and let's go here with it. Now we talked about, like, for instance, at first when I watched it, I was like, damn, this is like the Buster Douglas fight with Mike Tyson when Mike Tyson got his ass knocked out for the first time that everybody saw, and he lost the belt for the first time. It was like that, and he was like looking around the ground, searching for his mouthpiece because he just got a haymaker to the temple, and he never really had that before. So instead of getting up, he was like scrambling around looking for his mouthpiece. That technically, I thought that was like this battle, but really that wasn't it, because it wasn't that Dizaster knocked him out at all. It wasn't that. Canibus actually just got winded. You know what I mean? He just showed that he's kind of like a little bit of out of shape as far as the battling goes. He's out of shape. He's retired. They pulled his ass out of retirement off of a rocking chair somewhere in, theoretically and figuratively in hip hop years. He's like an older guy now. So like what? Canibus is probably what, in his late 30s maybe. So now he's grandpa, MC and shit. When that's kind of funny because You know, there's MCs that are a lot older than him that'll still rip a motherfucker. That's, you know, a young boy. You know, a lot of you young boys don't get souped up just because older people, you know, sometimes show their age a little bit and that they're out of shape like Canibus did. Okay, now that's not to say that Canibus is still not a nasty ass MC when he writes a rhyme and puts it on a track. Okay, when he was freestyle battling or trying to battle at the moment, go back and forth with a cat, he was out of practice for that shit. He was out of practice for that shit. He came completely unprepared, similar to the way Enes came at Iron Solomon. But here's where I'll give Enes way more credit than I could possibly give Canibus in this situation. Enes was unprepared, but he wasn't so unprepared that he didn't have something. He had something. It just wasn't really appropriate for the battle between him and Solomon won that one, right? But Canibus didn't have anything. He didn't have shit. He couldn't remember nothing. No, that's wrong. You know what made it worse? He remembered old ass fucking rhymes. He started regurgitating his first shit that he ever spit. He started regurgitating second round knockout. Like he did like a little flimsy ass remix on it. He changed like one or two words, but he was basically spitting back some of his first rhymes. And the first time he used that little technique, it did work because it worked as like a little crowd participation shit where he was talking about, yo, my shit is so dope and my lineage in battling is so ill that I got people in this crowd that know my rhymes. And then he started going into that, I battle you on the net, I battle you on the phone, you can call me collect. And then the crowd started reciting it. But then he kind of went into it a little bit too long, probably because he couldn't remember his rhyme. But all he could remember was that old shit. All right. So in a battle format, that doesn't work. We saw it. It didn't work. It was terrible. And it was not, like I said, it wasn't that Dizaster knocked him out. It was that he kind of punched himself in the balls. You know what I'm saying? He kind of, you know, shot himself in the foot to where he couldn't continue. Like he disqualified himself. So first round goes, he's pausing a lot, and you're wondering what the hell's going on. Then Dizaster comes back and he says some nice one-liners, throwing a whole hell of a lot of punches like Dizaster normally does. A whole bunch of amped, over-amped shit where it's not even calling for that particular battle. He's battling like he's got 10 niggas on him, and it's really just one person. So it's a little over-amped, a little bit pretentious, I would say. Like that's what I would say. You know, Dizaster's fine as an artist, an MC. I mean, as a battle rapper, because personally I've never heard any of his records, like any song that he's ever did. So I've heard him battle before, but he always just seems a little bit overamped to me. And he comes with a lot of the prescribed techniques. He seems like a person that studied rapping, like he studied how battles are done, and then he kind of mimics it. Now it's coming from an okay place, because I feel that Dizaster is a hip hopper. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the dude personally. There's a lot of shit floating around, and you know, shit with the gay shit and all that stuff, and I don't know how much that has to do with anything, but that's really not a disqualifier like that. If the nigga's gay, the nigga's gay. Like Canibus kept mentioning some Elton John shit. Like he mentioned it twice. He said the same fucking line twice. Canibus did. Like in round one, he said a line about him, but then couldn't remember his shit and said the line again in the second round. And it was about the gay shit with Elton John and shit, right? And people are saying that shit is true, you know, about Dizaster. But to me, that doesn't really have nothing to do with whether the nigga can rhyme or not. Like, so what if a nigga, you know, whatever he doing, that don't mean nothing. Like that, all that calling nigga faggot, that's kind of like people get amped about that shit, but that's really don't have nothing to do with the nigga can rap or not. You know what I'm saying? So with that shit aside, though, Dizaster's rhymes still have a bit of a quality that's a little bit recycled to me. Like he's just saying the stuff that he should say. Now, let me point out the good shit he did say. All the shit he was talking about Canibus personally and stuff, that was good. Like that was kind of, I wouldn't say it was so original. That would be what you should normally do. Like he was prepared. Dizaster prepared beyond preparing. You know what I'm saying? So he was fully prepared to where he was over prepared. He didn't have to say all the shit that he was saying because Canibus didn't have no rhymes. He couldn't remember none of his shit. So it actually would have looked better for Dizaster if he just started freestyling and commenting how this nigga ain't got no rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what he should have just took off on that. But he just kept doing all his rehearsed shit where he was going in and all the intricate shit and the karma shit that he was talking about with Canibus, about how Canibus fucked his own career up with his attitude and all that shit. That was hot. That was a good line of attack. His best line by far was the one where he was saying something about how going at Canibus right now, he feels bad, like he has to shoot his own dog. You know what I'm saying? And that was that epitomized what was going on that night. That did happen, okay? But not because Dizaster is such a nasty MC. It's only because Canibus was so weak, because he was so ill prepared for the whole situation. That's why he looked fucked up. All right. Now I know I'm probably no. We're probably got a couple of minutes. All right. Let me just before I go into Dizaster and then the competition and all that. Let me just finish up with Canibus. Um, People are commenting that you know, he did it for the money. Obviously, he did it for the money. There was, from what I understand, there was like 12 G's involved that he got guaranteed to come down there and battle, right? And there was supposed to be, if he won, there was supposed to be like 75 G's put up. And Canibus even mentioned something during the rhyme about how um, Dizaster put up some of the money for him to come out and battle. And if you look at it, Dizaster kind of admits that he did put up the money for him to come battle, because this was basically something that was going to benefit him. It wasn't really going to benefit Canibus really in any way. Even if Canibus came out there and smoked him, people would have been like, oh yeah, and they gave Canibus a little love, but it wouldn't really had no bump or no effect or helped Canibus in any way that he just ripped his Dizaster. Like people would have been like, okay, who's that? You know what I'm saying? The most average people don't even know who Dizaster is. Like most people in rapping don't, like all the young, think about all the young niggas, right? Most of the young niggas, like I'm talking about the rap niggas right now, but the majority of people that listen to rap music, they don't even know who Canibus is, right? But all the people who know who Dizaster is knows who Canibus is, all right? Whereas all the people that know who Canibus is, probably 2/3 of them don't know who Dizaster is. Okay, only the underground cats, only the cats that's into for real hip hop kind of know who Dizaster is, right? And then of course that filters into the people that know who Canibus is. But then there's a much wider audience that knows who he is from the LL battle and all that stuff. But even with all that, Canibus is not that known, really, if you really think about it. All right, in today's math, he's really not that known. So this battle really didn't help him in any shape, form, or fashion. It was going down. He did it for the money. He did it to get a little quick 12 G's, and he probably didn't take it seriously, just like Ines. Ines didn't take the shit seriously either. You know what I mean? And I don't know what it is about these competitions that the niggas that they paying to do it are not taking it seriously, but they got to look into that and maybe regulate it more so that it is taken seriously. Okay, and we're gonna talk about all of that, and we're gonna get into some more shit on the other side of this. But just to reiterate, and so that you remember, um, Canibus first came to fame because of the whole LL situation, right? Y'all remember that, obviously. Well, the first time anybody ever really saw Canibus was on the actually. You heard him and you heard his stuff on the mixtape, but people never saw him like visually before until they saw the cipher, which is actually something that me and my boys did back in the day for Shades of Hip Hop when we was doing Shades of Hip Hop video mixtapes, the originators of the video mixtape concept. So that was one of our first tapes, because that was back when it was on VHS back then. So that was actually our first video mix. Well, that was our third or fourth video mixtape actually, but that was the first one where there was ever a cipher with Big Pun, Mos Def, DMX, Canibus, John Forte, Mike Geronimo, all sitting at a table, and of course they all rhymed at the end. And that was the first time Second Round Knockout was ever spit in public. All right, so just to reminisce for a second, let's see if we can go back. Matter of fact, let's go back to something from the cipher, because I think I actually do have that uploaded on here. So as we come out of this, let me go back to that real quick, and when we come back, we're going to finish talking about this whole situation between Dizaster and your boy Canibus. Some say killing his career. Some say it's over for Canibus right now. They said he put a nail in the coffin of his career and he's never going to be able to show his face ever again. I don't really fully believe that, though. I really don't fully believe that. All right. So let's take a quick detour out of this. I'm getting calls. So let's take a quick detour and I'll be right back. All right. All right. So let's take a quick detour out of this. I'm getting calls. So let's take a quick detour.